I don't know how much good info is going to come out of this video, and honestly, this may be one of those cases where the good info comes from your guys' comments. That's because in this video, we're going to be talking about additives and trying out experiments in a not very scientific way. This vid is going to be all about Hotshot's secret. Now, they've got a bunch of different additives, and from what I've gathered and searched online, they've built most of their reputation in the diesel world, and that's what appears to be their bread and butter. But their lineup goes beyond diesel, obviously, since I don't have a diesel and would have no reason for this video otherwise. Now, before we go into the 3 additives we'll be talking about, let me say first, no, I am not sponsored by Hotshot Secret or affiliated with them in any way whatsoever. But yes, I did get these products for free, although technically I did have to earn them. That's because, in case you haven't noticed, at the top of this piece of cardboard I'm holding here, it says winner. That's right, I won these products. So while they don't sponsor me, they are one of the sponsors of the Modern Street HEMI Shootout series. And this is cut out from a box of Hotshot Secret products that was given out to each class winner during some of the races, or pretty much most of the races. I actually ended up winning 2 of these boxes, one in Orlando back in 22 and the other in Detroit that same year. Now, I also won a class in Kansas, but they had run out of boxes or didn't have anything put together, so they just gave out a $100 gift certificate for that race. Now, what I want to do now, though, is jump back a bit and show you some footage of when I first opened up this box to see what comes inside. I mean, it shows you right there, but better see it in first person. So let's jump to that really quick, and then we'll continue on with this. So it has all these additives. Again, it says it's a $140 value, which is pretty dang cool. And I've been wanting to open this up for a while now. I just haven't got around to it. Now, obviously, you can't buy this set. This is specifically made for the Modern Street HEMI Shootout winner, but you can buy all these things on their website, which I'll link to their site below. So first, we got us a shirt, and who doesn't love a shirt? There we go, Hotshot Secret Motorsports, powered by science. Love it. Okay, and then we've got some Stiction Eliminator, engine restorative, and FR plus FR3 nano lubricant, which I believe, yep, this is the FR3 Friction Reducer nano lubricant plus wear protection. So I guess this contains some of this. Okay, put those down, and let's see what we have here. Shift Restore, automatic transmission protectant and cleaner. And Gasoline Extreme Concentrated 1-Tank Cleaner. I'm probably going to use this right away in my Ram because I'm about to take a trip, but first I need to read about it, see what it's about. And then finally, we have stickers, which we love stickers, and a little product guide. Now, I have read some guys love this friction reducer. I don't know what to do with it. Should I put it in a Challenger? Should I put it in a Ram? I don't think I'll put it in a Ram. I think maybe I'll try it in a Challenger, possibly. We'll see. I'll think about it. Again, this, I'm probably gonna put in a Ram because the Ram's got over 100,000 miles on it. And it honestly could probably use this as a 33-gallon tank, or 32 gallons, sorry. It says treats 90 gallons of fuel. So this might last me a while. I don't know. We'll find out. And this, maybe this is something we try to use in the Ram. I'm actually about to do an oil change right before my trip, so I'm gonna read about this and we'll try it out. And Shift Restore, I have no idea where I'm going to use it. Either I'm gonna restore my car. The Challenger's only got like 5,500 miles, so I don't know if this will be good for that, but we'll find out. And we're back. So just FYI, I've been trying to put together this vid for a pretty long time now. In case you haven't caught on, I said I won these back in 22, and here we are in spring of 24. So we'll be jumping through time a bit in some of these clips. Now in this vid, as I sort of hinted at during that unboxing, we're going to look at 3 of these additives. First up will be the FR3 Friction Reducer that I'm going to use in my 2020 Dodge Challenger 1320. Then after that, we'll look at the Stiction Eliminator along with the Gasoline Extreme, both of which will be used in my 2017 Ram 1500, which just happens to be the truck that I'm driving in right now. I also want to add these things aren't that easy to test out, at least not outside of an actual lab. And while in real world scenarios that throw in a whole mess of variables.
But that said, there's going to be a lab involved, and I'll do my best to get whatever data I can. Now with that, let's jump back to when I first used each of these 3 products and get on with the vid.
Here I have this friction reducer, and I decided, you know what, I'm just going to try it out in my Challenger 1320. It only has 8,500 miles on it. It sees a lot of racing, so it gets a lot of use, a lot of heavy use, I should say, not mileage use, obviously, only 8,500 miles on it. Now this bottle here, it says it treats up to 11 quarts, and it's a 60-ounce bottle, so I'm just going to use half. So I'm going to do 8 ounces of this stuff. And again, you use this in place of oil. So if you normally put in 7 quarts of oil, you'll put in 7 quarts minus 8 ounces. This time we're going to look at the Stiction Eliminator. So it's an engine restorative and plus has FR3 nano lubricant. And the FR3 is actually what we just put in my Challenger Scat Pack 1320. Which is right there, all cleaned up. In fact, I just did it earlier today. Getting ready to go to a race, so had to do an oil change on this truck too. Now this truck is almost 110,000 miles. I've never used any oil additives whatsoever. So anyway, so this removes stiction, which is kind of like that sludgy buildup stuff from oil. It's supposed to be good for gas or diesel. They're really known for diesel stuff, but this is good for gas or diesel, safer synthetic oils. It says to use 4 ounces per 1 quart of oil for initial cleanup. This is the initial cleanup, or 2 ounces per 1 quart for maintenance. So I don't really want to go all the way to, I might just do 20, so I'll probably go about right here. Okay, there we go. We got about 20 ounces in there. So that treats, 6 quarts, this holds 7 quarts. So, all right, continuing hot shots, we're here at the gas pump, and I'm going to try out this Gasoline Extreme in my 17 Ram. Now it says this whole bottle treats 45 gallons. I have a 32-gallon tank in here, and it's half full. I'm going to fill it up. So basically, I'm going to use about 2/3 of this bottle, so about 12 ounces of it. Put it in, see what happens. All right, we're actually just gonna leave about right there. In my next fill up, I'll dump the rest of this in for the next fill up. Quick update on what we're doing here with these Hotshot secret products. So now I am on the road now. I've been on the road for an hour on my way to Maryland. It's a 1,300-mile trip one way to go racing. So yesterday I did the oil change on this truck, which is when I added the Stiction Eliminator, and then earlier today is when I topped off the gas tank and threw in a Gasoline Extreme. Now I decided to go ahead and just do both at the same time. Now the Stiction Eliminator, I already said we are going to test that by taking a look at the oil analysis and compare it to the oil analysis I'm going to do on oil that has no additives. But also it says that, it helps improve mileage, which makes sense. As you clean things up, it's more efficient and should improve mileage. But I don't expect much of a bump, at least not on its own, or not enough to be very noticeable. And then I wanted to do the Gasoline Extreme at some point, and I was debating how to do it. And I decided, let's go ahead and throw it in here. So they're both Hotshot secret products, and even tells you on the Stiction Eliminator, hey, you should use the Gasoline Extreme at the same time and really just clean everything out, the fuel system, the engine, everything. And so that's kind of what we did. And I decided to just go ahead and throw it in the beginning of the trip because my route to get to Maryland includes going from here to Nashville. That's actually in my way. And I just did that trip 2 months ago when I went to Bowling Green for Mo Party. And in case you can see in a mirror there, I'll just show you in the back. There is my car. We are going racing, so I'm towing the car. And I've done mileage tests in this exact setup, me towing that car in the weight it's in with all the tools, everything. So I've done this several times and I know the mileage a truck gets. All right, so that's where we're at. Just wanted to give you an update, and if anything changes, I notice anything as we go, I will definitely let you. So I am here at my destination at Maryland International Raceway, which is where I was going, where I did all the oil changes and everything. And I'll be honest, so far the mileage has improved. Let's take a look. I've done over 1,300 miles now. It says my average is 15.4, but it's actually closer to 16. So I've been sitting in this line for about a half an hour now, so the mileage has slowly been going down. Also, the last hour of the trip from where I stopped last night to this morning to get here,
It was all super windy country roads and where I was doing like 20 miles an hour. So it kind of dropped quite a bit, but I was closer to 16. We'll see. I'm going to calculate out the actual mileage, but honestly, so far, it is a noticeable improvement. Or so I thought, but we'll get to that in a second. At this point, we've used all three of these Hotshot secret additives, driven 1,000 miles with them, and have all the data we can get, albeit limited. And so we were just talking about the mileage in a gasoline extreme. That's where we'll start. As much as I'd love to have done a more proper test, like say by pooling the fuel injectors beforehand, flow testing them, reinstalling them, running the gasoline extreme, and then pooling them again to retest the flow, I just don't have the setup or equipment to do something like that. If you think about it though, if there was a significant improvement in injector performance, it would make sense that fuel economy would also improve. And it even says on Hotshot Secret website that they've seen up to a 7.9% improvement in fuel economy. And that's a test we do have data for. So why did I think there was an improvement? Well, the mileage gauge itself is always updating and reflects more recent data versus overall data. And at that point, when I got to the track in Maryland, the previous 400 to 500 miles going through northeastern Tennessee and Virginia, I actually achieved a calculated MPG of 15.8. That number is significantly higher than normal, but it was the only number, or at least the only portion of my drive, that saw that high of a number. So again, the test conditions is my 2017 Ram towing my 2020 Dodge Challenger on a rented U-Haul car trailer with all the usual tools and equipment I always take with me for race trips. So let's compare these trips, starting with the ones I didn't use any additives of any kind. Also, these are all actual calculated mileages, meaning I kept track of miles driven and exact amounts of fuel used, and then determined the actual MPG achieved instead of going off the truck gauge. So, Dallas to Rockingham, North Carolina, 2,300 miles averaging 14.66 MPG. Dallas to Topeka, Kansas, 950 miles averaging 14.06 MPG. Dallas to Bowling Green, Kentucky, 1,500 miles averaging 14.26 MPG. And now we get to this last trip, Dallas to Maryland, where we started the trip out by adding the gasoline extreme and using up the rest of the bottle at the next stop after. Here we got 2,700 miles averaging 14.23 MPG. So between a gasoline extreme and Stiction Eliminator, there was absolutely no improvement in mileage whatsoever. As you can see with these numbers, it's pretty much smack dab in the middle of what I consistently see. Now, for just one more comparison that's a little bit more direct, like I said before, this Maryland trip and Kentucky trip right before the previous month both went from Dallas to Nashville along the exact same roads. So on just that portion, I saw 14.646 MPG without additives, whereas on the way to Maryland with the gasoline extreme, it only saw 14.23. So yeah, even less with the thing that's supposed to improve economy. But with the overall averages being so close, this difference could easily be explained by variances in weather, wind, usual stuff. Essentially what I'm saying is at no point did I see verifiable evidence of improved mileage from the gasoline extreme or Stiction Eliminator, since that also says it does that. So now on to the oil additives. And since we're already talking about my Ram, let's start with the Stiction Eliminator. On the Hotshot Secret site, it states that this stuff improves fuel economy, which we've already addressed just now, that it restores power and performance, and finally that it reduces engine wear. As for the power and performance, well, I honestly couldn't tell any difference, but that of course is subjective. When it comes to reduced engine wear, well, that's where a lab comes in. So let me kick it back to another update I did previously on this. All right, well, we have put on 8,232 miles on this oil. It is time to do an oil change and get a sample and see what this Hotshot Secret Stiction Eliminator did. So as a reminder, here's the Stiction Eliminator that I used. And as you can see, we used about 20 ounces roughly. But anyway, we are gonna use the rest of it because it says for maintenance to use 2 ounces per quart. So that would be roughly 14 ounces that we need, which is about what's left. So we are gonna do one more maintenance around this, and we'll do an oil sample at that next go around too. So this is the first oil sample after the initial
clean up using Stiction Eliminator. So let me get on the truck and get that sample. All right, we've got our oil sample. We go ahead and fill out the paperwork on this and ship it off to Blackstone Labs and see what they find out.
It has now actually been over a year since that oil change you just saw. In that time, I've actually gone through another 2 oil changes. And since I've been sending an oil sample to Blackstone Labs with each oil change, we've got plenty of data to look at in regards to engine wear. By the way, if you're interested in getting an oil analysis done as well, I highly recommend Blackstone Labs. And no, I'm not sponsored by them either. I just really love their service. They actually take the time to answer any questions you might have, and they keep track of all your samples and list the results in subsequent reports so you can actually see how your engine wear is trending over a period of time. Now I have a link to their site in the description below, since there's also a workout supplement company called Blackstone Labs also, so you don't want to get those 2 confused. So on to the reports, which I've got right here. Now I'm still learning about these and what everything means, so if you see anything interesting, feel free to comment down below. I learned from you all just as much, if not more, than you might learn from me. So here's the report from the samples sent in from that clip you just saw. The columns go from the current or the latest sample on the left to the oldest on the right, with the shaded second column just showing the average of all samples sent in from your engine. So those are from your engine itself, so that you can see your latest and see how it compares to the average. And then finally, the very last column at the end here is just universal averages that the lab sees. Now I sent in a sample. I noted that I used Hotshot's secret Stiction Eliminator. So let's start by reading what they had to say. Thanks for the notes. In most cases, Hotshot's additives don't have a big impact on our analysis. They don't typically show up, so we can't say whether they help or not. It didn't hurt anything we can see, so feel free to use Hotshot's additives if you like them. This latest sample from your RAM shows healthy wear. The oil was in use for a similar interval as the previous samples, and wear metals are steady overall. There aren't any issues in the works, and the oil is in excellent physical condition. So look at the data on this report. Wear from engine metals does in fact look to be fairly steady, and pretty much all the data points appear fairly steady. The 3 that kind of stand out is an increase in molybdenum, or however you say that word, boron, and magnesium. While there can be different sources for those, they're also commonly found in friction reducers and detergent additives, so more than likely that jump is from the Hotshot secret additives itself. Now let's look at my latest report. As you can see on this one, we have a lot more data. First, the comments, because recently I've been noticing my truck has just been using up more and more oil, and asked them if maybe that could be from things getting too clean from the Stiction Eliminator, basically opening up spaces that might have been sealed before from the gunk. Again, I'm not an expert here. I'm just making somewhat educated guesses and then asking the actual real experts. So here's what they had to say. We're not super well versed on Stiction Eliminator and whether it could be the reason for the increased oil consumption. We'd guess it's not. A lot of people use it and we haven't seen any correlation between that and increased consumption. Chances are good it's just coincidence. It's pretty common for oil usage to increase as engines get up there in miles. 10K wasn't too long for this fill. The engine looks great. Try 12,000 miles next time. So that made me feel better. Basically, Blackstone is saying things are looking good and I can even go longer between oil changes. So if we look at this data, basically still same as before. Everything seems to be steadily wearing overall with the same 3 standouts. We already saw this, most likely from the additives. Although there is a sudden jump in calcium, not really sure where that's from. Might need to look into that. So looking at the trend overall, the first 2 columns on the right, again, is before I ever used any kind of additive whatsoever. Then we have the sample from when we did our initial cleaning. Then next is the sample where we did the maintenance dose, where we used the rest of that bottle of Stiction Eliminator. And then my latest sample, I didn't actually put any additive at all. I decided not to use any more again. Now, everything still seems to be trending the same, and if I'm right about those 3 standouts, future oil samples, those 3 standouts should decrease back to pre-additive levels. At least that's the way that's what I think. The biggest thing I see though on this report, or should I say I don't see, is a reduction in engine wear. Unless you see something I don't on this report, all the engine wear appears to be the same whether with or without additives. Like, there doesn't seem any improvement, not a decline, not anything. Just, it is just what it is. Oh, and also with all these oil changes, I've only ever been using Pennzoil Platinum 5W20 with this Ram. All right, so now we've gone over the Ram, we've gone over Gasoline Extreme, we've gone over Stiction Eliminator, and we only have one left, and that's the FR3 Friction Reducer, which again, the Stiction Eliminator actually contains FR3 within it, among other things. So with the FR3, now we jump to my Challenger 1320.
And here she is, which by the way, she also goes by the name Skeletora. And this testing is gonna be a bit different and honestly probably not as good, mainly because she spends a lot of time at the track and not so much on the street. She did get dailied for a while though, so we did put some miles on her, just not anywhere near as much as the Ram. Plus, at the time I sent in my last oil sample, she only had 11,000 miles on her, so this Hemi is still fairly young. And she hasn't quite lost all of her baby wear metals. Now, depending who you ask, that can possibly take up to 20,000 miles, although majority should happen within the first 10, which we're barely at this point. What this means is that wear metals should be highest in the early oil samples and then steadily decrease over time. So basically, it makes it tougher to determine whether a decrease in wear is from the additives or just the engine going through its typical growth spurts. That all said, we do have plenty of oil samples because while she doesn't have a lot of miles, she still gets routine oil changes to stay within Dodge's recommended intervals, which is 6 months, just to make sure we have no warranty issues and because she sees so much heavier drag strip use. So here we'll just look at my latest oil analysis report. But before we do, I just want to mention Blackstone Labs' comment on one of my earlier samples where I told them I first used FR3. Basically, all they said was, keep using Hotshots if you like, it doesn't affect our results. So pretty much what they said in regards to the Stiction Eliminator, which kind of feels like they don't necessarily want to take a stance either way, which I honestly get. So in just 11,076 miles, we've had 8 oil changes on Skeletora here, but only 6 analysis reports since I didn't start sending in samples until my 3rd oil change, because I think about it. The first 3 samples sent in, and basically all the oil used for the first 8,500 miles had no additives whatsoever. Just the plain old Pennzoil Ultra Platinum 0W40, which is the factory recommended oil, and even has the SRT logo on it. Then the last 3 samples we sent in each used 8 ounces of the FR3. Now, one last thing to keep in mind as we look at this report, the mileage intervals between samples do vary a bit. For the most part, things are trending down, but there is some worry here for me, particularly iron and copper, which I'd say are probably the main wear metals to be looking at. Now the latest sample, which is the 3rd consecutive sample that used FR3, shows iron has gone up a little and copper, while lower here, did jump up with the 2nd FR3 sample. But more importantly, this latest sample only has 123 miles on it. Kind of scared about what the iron and copper would look like had this sample had a few thousand miles on it. Couple reasons really quick why this last sample only had 123 miles on it. First, a 3rd vehicle joined the family, so Skeletora here no longer had daily driver duties. So these 123 miles are mostly from the drag strip in just a 4-month time span. Mainly though, I wanted to get an oil sample sent in as soon as possible after my last track outing over at Legion of Demons, because I got a tick. At one point at the track, immediately after a 1/4 mile run, I started hearing a loud, pronounced tick. Definitely not the normal Hemi tick either. And I was in competition, so I ended up going straight back into staging lanes, popped the hood, and before I could grab my camera to record the tick, it just kind of disappeared and vanished. And that tick hasn't been back since and only really lasted a few minutes out there. But with the known lifter and cam issues on some of these semis, I wanted to get the oil change and analyzed like immediately. So back to the report. Wear metals aside, the other notables is manganese, which per Blackstone is commonly at these high levels from octane boosters. And I've been using Boostane, so that's where that's from. Then there's boron, which again is most likely from the FR3 additive itself. So what was the effect of using FR3? Hard to say. I mean, let's look at Hotshot's secret claims for it. Increase horsepower up to 5%. Well, that Maryland race immediately after first using it did see slightly faster than usual 1/4 mile trap speeds, but given the awesome cool weather with really low DA, I was actually disappointed that weekend in my actual 1/4 mile times. I thought I was going to be able to hit a new PB that weekend, but didn't really come that close. Of course, since then I have hit new PBs and new records, including multiple trips into the 10-second range, but it's hard to say how much, if any, of that is attributable to the FR3. Next, increased fuel economy 5%. Well, no way for me to comment on that with the way I drive this car and all the racing it sees, so it is what it is. But these last two are really interesting. Reduces engine wear up to 43% and restores lost compression while reducing lifter and valve noise. This car's too young to really have lost any compression. But as I mentioned, while using FR3, I did get those few minutes of obvious ticking. Now, if we ignore that ticking though, I'd say the lifter and valve noise was around the same levels they've pretty much always been. And for the wear, well, we've gone over the oil analysis and things aren't looking great there. But really, we need to wrap up this vid. I honestly debated even putting this out there. The data I have just has so many variables, and I don't really know how good or informative the info I have is. In a way, I'm maybe hoping for some input from you guys about it all. And regardless of the quality of info, I've always been open about everything and will always share as much as I can when it comes to my vehicles. And in the end, I don't really know how I feel about these Hotshot secret additives. With the gasoline extreme, I'm a firm believer in using some sort of fuel system cleaner periodically, so that's something I probably would have bought myself. As for the oil additives, if I'm being honest, I wouldn't have bought them myself and only used them here because I won them in races. With both my Ram and my Challenger here, I decided not to use any more oil additives with my last oil change on each vehicle. And I probably honestly won't ever use them again. I've never used oil additives in any of my previous vehicles, and those engines ran perfectly for as long as I've had them. So again, let me know your thoughts. I really am interested in hearing other people's and your guys' experiences, and definitely if you noticed anything at all in any of these analysis reports, please let me know because I'm still learning all this stuff. And as always, like, comment, subscribe, all that good stuff, and see you at the drag strip.